Welcome to the International House of Japan's webinar series, Leaders Shaping the Future of Indo-Pacific. I am a Professor Mizuno of Kanda University of International Studies. In this session, we invite Dr. Ayang Utriza Yakin, a distinguished scholar on Islam law from Indonesia. Currently, a research associate at the Catholic University of Louvain in Belgium. Today, Dr. Yakin will give us a lecture on halal. As more and more Muslim people are coming to Japan as students, tourists, and workers, we are increasingly required to understand the basic rule of Islam like halal. Dr. Yakin has made his research both in Japan and in Europe. Published a book titled Rethinking Halal, Critical Perspective on Halal Markets and Certification. So, Dr. Yakin, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Professor Mizuno, for this time. So, ladies and gentlemen, good morning in European time and good evening in Japanese time. Before I get started, I would like to express my sincere appreciations to the International House of Japan for inviting me in this program. I'm very pleased to talk in this evening about what is halal understanding Islam through halal food in contemporary minority texts. But before I begin, I would like to share my PowerPoint. Yeah, so I will begin with the introductions. What is halal? Halal is an Arabic word and term defined as authorized, allowed, pure, licit, or lawful. Halal is one of legal qualifications, 5 of legal qualifications used to classify Muslim acts. As you see here, there is wajib or fard, obligatory act, mandub, voluntary act, mubah, permissible act, and halal, it is located here in the 3rd category, mubah or halal. 4th, makruh, dislike or condemned act, and haram, forbidden or prohibited act. The terms halal, lawful, licit or pure, and haram, unlawful, illicit, and impure, are used in Islamic law to categorize actions, behaviors, and objects under Islamic norms and morality. In Islam, full authority belongs only to God, and God alone, through the Quran, decides what is halal or not. This authority was delegated to the Prophet of Muhammad, who explained more broadly what halal is and listed its categories and criteria in his sayings and traditions, or the hadith and sunnah. Based on these fundamental Islamic sources, the Quran and the hadith or sunnah, the ulama, regarded as a religious authority that sets Islamic norms and standards, have the right to interpret and decide what is or not halal. Here, as you see in the slide, the ethical and legal argumentations of halal and haram are based on the Quranic verses and the prophetic traditions. For instance, here, these verses mentions how to consume only halal thing. For instance, the second part, فَكُلُوا مِمَّا رَزَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ حَلَالًا طَيِّبًا وَاشْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ إِن كُنتُمْ إِيَّاهُ تَعْبُدُونَ. So eat from the good, lawful things which Allah or God has provided for you, and be grateful for Allah's favors if you truly worship Him alone. And not only about halal, what we found in the Quran, but also here I give you an example. Some verses contain the halal prohibition. So these verses prohibit Muslim to consume haram thing. For instance, in the first part, إنما حرم عليكم الميتة والدم ولحم الخنزير وما أهل به لغير الله فمن اضطر غير باغ ولا عاد فلا إثم عليه إن الله غفور رحيم. He has only forbidden you to eat carrion, blood, swine, and what is slaughtered in the name of any other than Allah. But if someone is compelled by necessity, neither driven by desire nor exciting immediate need, they will not be sinful. Surely Allah or God is all-forgiving, most merciful. So halal and haram verses are basically the fundamental verses in the Quran. The focus of fiqh or Islamic law deliberations or discussions by fuqaha or Islamic jurists center on what is lawful and what is not in both Sunni and Shia Islam. From the formative period of Islamic law in the 8th century to the modern period of the 19th century, there was, according to Christian Lange, haramizations of Islamic law. So during this period, the Muslim jurists said, oh, this is haram, that is haram. So everything become haram. However, in the late of 20th and the early of 21st centuries, this trend shifted towards halalizations. So the halal way of life or halal lifestyle is a very recent development, which is to ensure consumptions, dress, behavior, social interactions, and other things to Sharia through standards, certifications, and regulation. For centuries, ulama, Muslim scholars, were not concerned with these modern halal issues. This recent development can be explained by the evolutions of science and technologies, especially in the domain of food productions. It became difficult for Muslim majority countries or states not to regulate and legislate on halal. In that respect, these states become important agents in the field of halal. Other states, namely minority Muslim countries like Japan, chose not to specifically regulate halal, but it opened a new market with its own legal issues and judicial conflicts. So the halal economy includes all Muslim economic activity, from food and hygiene products to Islamic banking and finance. Halal is not only about food. Halal is also about how one runs one business, paying of suppliers on time, honoring contract, treatments of staff, and how one treats business partners and clients. So halal is a lot more than just food. Halal comprises everything from agri-food, such as meat, food, beverages, and then cosmetics, aesthetic, pharmacology, restaurants, hotels, tourisms, and travels. The halal economy of today is a modern phenomenon, the result of the standardization regimes and modern trade networks. And this leads me to the next sections. I will talk about contemporary halal industry and products. I would love to give you some numbers, Professor Mizuno. According to the Standard Islamic Economy Global Report, consumer in the world spending in global Islamic economic sectors grew per year, 9.5%. In 2022, amounting to 2.29 trillion US dollar. So it's a huge economic market, right? Import of halal related products by the OIC, Organization of Islamic Countries, of member countries, is set to grow at 7.6% to around 492 billion US dollar in 2027. In 2022, it was about 359 billion US dollars. It's a huge amount of money. And then I think, yes, so big. And then I think Japan could think how to invest in this global halal market. Which is so interesting, Professor Muzana, is that import by OIC member countries represent a significant majority of halal products traded globally, which include, this is very important, food and beverage, fashion, especially apparel and footwear also, pharmaceuticals, and cosmetics. Just to give you the last number, global Muslim spending on food and beverages is forecast to hit around 1.89 trillion US dollar in 2027. So once again, this is huge global market. And I think, yes, for the Japanese businessman and woman could think and rethink to invest in this huge global halal market. After giving you some numbers, we still need to see halal historical developments. So historically speaking, the questions of halal sprang in the late of 70s and early 80s. However, it is only in the past of 20 years, halal became a salient concern, especially in European countries, and Asian non-Muslim countries, mainly for business and other economic purposes. The spread of halal compliance is the combinations of different elements that led to the widening of its meaning. At the beginning, halal was limited to the domain of food allowed to be consumed by Muslims. Later, the word halal underwent semantic extensions to other products and services, including halal food processing, halal hotel, halal sauna, halal cosmetics, halal drugs, halal fashions, halal taxi, and halal airline, and so on and so forth. So this halal phenomenon has been characterized by the emergence of new institutions, halal certificate body or bodies, Islamic marketing, and Islamic finance. For instance, in Belgium, there is 17 halal certification bodies, while in Japan, according to some rumors, like 200, but it's just impossible. When I conducted ethnographic halal research in Japan, I found at least 9 halal certification bodies existing in activity in Japan nowadays. So these new practices required new kinds of scholars or ulama in charge of linking religious scholarships and technological developments in food, pharmaceutical, and cosmetic industries. Sharia boards, like Ulama Council of that halal certification body, started issuing fatwas on such issues, which either did not previously exist or were different in nature and content from classical fiqh discussion. In widespread of industrialization, merchandising, changing consumptions patterns, and evolving dietary worldviews within an increasingly global market, it has triggered, I quote, harmonious and urgent, the development of new halal regulations, the rise of halal consumer and certification industry, and the constructions of halal cuisines. I think most Japanese are interested so much on halal cuisine that we can elaborate in our discussions. So these regulations are currently developed by the international actors, state, international, transnational, and other organizations which produce standards defining what constitutes halal. These standards are also indicative of what has become halal dictums under the purview of the modern state and the influence of global capitalisms. So this leads me to the next topic on halal in majority and minority contexts. 50 years ago, in majority Muslim countries, halal standards, halal certifications did not exist because halal certifications was not required. Nowadays, in Muslim majority countries, halal certifications is closely associated with state institutions in charge of religious affairs. For instance, in Indonesia, they have special regulations. The Indonesian government enacted new legislations in 2014, which came into effect 2 years ago. Undang-Undang Jaminan Produk Halal, the law and the assurance of halal products. But also Indonesia have these special state institutions, BPJPH, that administer, regulate, and manage halal products and industry in the country. Definitely not only Indonesia, in Malaysia there is JAKIM, in Brunei Darussalam, and other majority Muslim Arabic countries, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Gulf countries, and so on and so forth. In Muslim minority countries like Japan, this is some pictures that I took during my ethnographic halal research many years ago in Japan. It is governed by private organization commonly referred to as halal certification body. So prior to the global expansions of the halal market in recent decades, Muslim importers simply demanded that non-Muslim countries complied with Sharia or Islamic law and set up specific Islamic process in their factories. Today, HCB, halal certification body, play a central role in halal certification, both locally and regionally. And they are a key to the development of halal system in Muslim minority contexts, like in Japan. If you wish, we can also elaborate, Professor Mizuno, these halal certification bodies in Japan in our discussion later on. The emergence and expansions of standardizations and certifications was built on the successful intersections of Islamic regulations with scientific technologies and global trade. Halal certifications in non-Muslim countries is the consequence of halal standards produced essentially by Southeast Asian Muslim countries, according to many researchers, including Johan Fischer. The integrations of global markets with industry, together with the findings of scientific research and the approval of religious authorities, ulama, especially in Indonesia and in Malaysia, but also in Singapore, Brunei, the Philippines, and Thailand, have driven the proliferations of halal certification. These standards profoundly influence the global halal market, including in non-Muslim countries like Japan and across the Western world. According to my ethnographic halal research in Japan, for instance, all halal certifications bodies in Japan followed mainly two standards, Indonesian standard and Malaysian standards. Indeed, companies and industries need halal standards because the state, particularly in Japan or in Europe, does not regulate halal, because Japan and European countries are secular countries that do not intervene in religious matters and issues. So when the state, like Japan, does not exert any regulations, standards become important, in this case, halal. Why then halal becomes important in non-Muslim countries? In this minority context, for instance, in Europe, is driven chiefly by immigrations from Muslim countries, Algeria, Turkey, Morocco, and Tunisia, but also in Asian non-Muslim countries like Japan, Taiwan, Korea, by the immigration from Southeast and South Asian countries. Again, I observed that, for instance, in Japan, so many immigrants coming from South Asian countries such as India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka, not to mention definitely Indonesia and Malaysia. For European context, many young European Muslims in new generations strictly follow Islamic rules when it comes to consuming halal food. In the European context, international media, intergenerational relationship, socioeconomic policies, and educations all contribute to the development of halal systems in Europe. But there is an issue then. In response to the demand for a halal way of life, politicians in European countries see halal as a threat to secularism's undermining the secular ethos of religious freedom. But on the other hand, in Muslim minority countries, states have two concerns. At least this is what I observe in my research in at least French-speaking European countries like Belgium and in France. First, at the international level, states encourage halal certifications to support exportations of products to Muslim majority countries for national economic prosperity. For instance, in Belgium or in France, French government, Belgian government encourage all companies to certify their product to halal. Why? Because they need to export their product to majority Muslim countries. However, international level, second, they may be suspicious about the halal market, which politicians and regulators think may potentially lead to communitarianisms or fundamentalisms, and extreme cases, radicalisms, or at least Islamophobic attitudes. This leads me to some conclusions for our context in Japan. I want to conclude my talk is that what we eat conveys to others a message about our beliefs and religions. There are some motives behind why we avoid eating some foods for health reasons, social needs, cultural exigencies, to religious norms and teachings. This is actually what is happening when it pertains to halal food. Food and identity are intertwined. Food becomes an identity of a country. Food plays an important role in shaping our identity. food becomes one of the keys of culture to structure our identities. Muslims exclude pork and its derivative and alcoholic beverages in their diet. Many Japanese dishes contain either pork or alcoholic derivatives, and here is a pivotal concern. In the Japanese public sphere nowadays, there is obviously an ongoing process in evolutions and in washoku. Washoku. Hopefully I pronounce it well.
Very well. Excellent.
Japanese food is determined by external influences. The process of externalizations and internalizations in Japanese food culture is part of identity making. In fact, there is more commitment, engagement, and responsibility in the Japanese society where Muslims reside. There is around 100,000 Muslims living in Japan, and where Muslims will come or are coming more and more to Japan, especially from Southeast Asian countries, from Indonesia, already amounting to 350,000 tourists annually, only from Indonesia and Malaysia. So this is what Japanese business industry, businessmen, women, and government to pay attentions not only to the needs of Japanese Muslims, 100,000 in Japan, but this is more, I think, the most important when Muslim tourists are coming to Japan.
I was so surprised that halal is not just a matter of food, but also it's a service, and there are halal airline, halal sauna. But I wonder to what extent those non-majority, Muslim majority countries like Japan will follow those kind of regulations, especially what is a relevant body to certify the halal? As you mentioned, there are so many, bodies which can make a business, not necessarily religious spirit. So I think a majority Muslim countries like Indonesia or Malaysia, it is rather, government and the state can authorize the certified body. But in case of a non-majority Muslim majority country like Japan, the government cannot, regulate those kind of religious matter. So what is your advice?
Thank you so much, Professor Mizuno, for this remark. In October 2016, I visited the island of Okinawa for around, I think, 4 or 1 week or so. When we arrived in the airport, and then the driver took us to the hotel, and then the reception asked me, "Sir, do you come from Indonesia?" "Yes, I do." "Do you need halal room?" "What? Halal room?" I was so surprised. So how it is possible? In Okinawa, there is a halal room, a Muslim-friendly hotel. So I was really surprised, but also I was really curious. What does it mean, halal room? And then I said to this respected lady, Japanese lady in the receptions, "Yes, I would like a halal room." Okay. And then when she gave me a key, and then I directly took the elevator and got into my room. So with the companionship of one of Boy Bell, what does it mean, halal room? "Oh, it means you cannot smoke in the room." Okay. So non-smoking room. Okay. Second, when he left me in the room and I was alone, I observed everything. What does it mean, halal room? Halal Muslim-friendly hotel. Okay. First, I found the Qiblah directions, which means the the directions to
To Mecca.
indicate where we are going to perform the salah, the prayers. Second, I found the prayer mat. Okay, the prayer mat to perform the salah or prayers. Third, I found in the locker the Quran. So the Quran. So, three elements. So what defines hotel as halal? First, should provide halal room, which consists of non-smoking prayer mat, Quran, and Qiblah. I was really amazed. Really, I was really amazed. And the following day in the morning, when I wanted to take my breakfast, I wanted to enter to the restaurant, right? And there was a lady, sir. You are from Indonesia and you are Muslim. Yes, I am. When I wanted to sit, no, sir, stop. Why? I want to sit everywhere. No. You must sit in the very special place. Oh, okay.
Halal seat.
halal corner. Okay. I sit in the halal corner or halal place, let's say. Okay. And then I was about to take plate and cutleries. And then there was a lady was running to me and then said to me, "Sir, no, please don't touch it. Don't take these cutleries and plate and so on. So from this part, why not? I want to eat. No. Just sit down. We'll bring you everything. Halal cutleries, halal plate, everything. Halal glass and so on and so forth." Oh, I was really amazed and surprised. Okay, so I came back to my seat and then I sit. And a couple minutes after, they brought me a plate and cutleries and everything, and they brought me finally. They showed me the halal corner where I was able to take halal foods. And after the breakfast, I went to see the supervisor. "Sir, why you asked me to sit and to come back to my table and then to wait the plate and cutleries? Why? What are the differences between those cutleries plate for common Japanese or other tourists and me?" "Oh, sir." And then he explained very nicely. And then he said that, "Oh, because we have different washing machine, we have different cutleries and plate, everything. So for halal clients and customers who are Muslim will be provided everything halal. While for halal non-halal customers, common people, that's very different."
They just separate everything.
Exactly, they separated everything. Professor Mizuno, from this experience, not only I was really surprised, but also I was amazed how Japanese hotel in Okinawa follow strictly what is halal and is not. And then I asked the manager, "From which halal certification body you are certified?" And then he mentioned one name of Japanese halal certification body that I don't want to mention his or her mark. Friendly. Okay. So from this experience, non-Muslim countries like Japan or here in Europe still can run halal business, including in travel and tourism, to provide Muslim-friendly hotel, Muslim-friendly restaurant, Muslim-friendly tourist destination. The question that arose from your comment is that who will supervise, certify, standardize this halal or not? While non-Muslim countries, they don't have any laws, regulations, legislations,
and knowledge,
halal things.
Knowledge itself.
Also knowledge. So, as I explained previously, halal certification bodies that exist in that country will certify whether this product or this service are compatible with Islamic or Sharia or not. The following question is that how can we find trustworthy halal certification body? As you mentioned, maybe there are trustworthy halal certification bodies that really want to serve Japanese Muslims, for instance, and also facilitate Japanese industries and companies. But also, unfortunately, there are also some halal certification bodies which are only profit oriented. So I think to know which halal certification body is trustworthy or not, first you need to see the year of its creations or foundations. In Japan, the oldest halal certifications body is located in Tokyo, which is Japanese Muslim Associations. And this JMA has been accredited by both Indonesia and Malaysia. I think JMA is one of the HCB, trustworthy HCB in Japan. I don't want to promote them, but only to mention one example. There are, if I want to mention few of them, like JHA in Osaka, Japan Halal Associations, run by Japanese converted Muslimah. So, many like in Naha, like Islamic Trust, and so on and so forth. So the question how to find this trustworthy halal certification body. To know this HCB trustworthy or not, just to see how much they will charge you for certifying one product or one service.
Okay, thank you very much your kind advice, and it will be very helpful to the Japanese people who try to engage in tourism, or restaurant, other things. And my last point is, as you mentioned, halal is just one phenomena, one aspect of cultural interaction between non-Muslim people and the Muslim people. And as you explained today, this is really introduction of how deep and how wide of the Muslim culture and the Muslim world and the Muslim philosophy. I'm just not specialized in the halal, but before I had a lecture from you, I just thought, no pork, no alcohol, that's halal. But that's not at all. Halal is, as you mentioned, it's a kind of a dialogue with Allah. What Allah permit to do is halal. That's why Muslim people, this is so important and so core value of the Muslim people. So that's why it is not appropriate for the just profit-oriented, certification. To get a certification for profit purpose itself is just capitalization. So what we have to learn from your lecture today is don't make profit-orientated certificate business for halal. We need to mutual understanding through this halal thing, and we have to share our value so that we can be more and more close together with the non-Muslim or Muslim people through food. So let's go to halal Washok restaurant next time you come to Japan.